Okay. LA County District Attorney says Eric and Lyle Menendez don't deserve a new trial. My guy. You have 200 plus case files, both from the first trial and the second trial. Just give me a minute, because yesterday it took me a lot to not make a crash out video about this. So Nathan Hochman, I finally remembered his name, took over after elections in California after he was elected over the former DA George Gascon, who initially went forward with the motion to give Eric and Lyle a resentencing, whether it was a charge reduce, which would mean they had served enough time and that charge would have been reduced to manslaughter. So then that would have been compiled enough time that they've done and they would have automatically got out, or they would have been eligible for parole and then would have went ahead in front of a parole board. And he got DA Gascon, before he left office, took more into account what Eric and Lyle have done while incarcerated, and not so much whether or not it was solely going to be based on their crime. And by that, I mean he read their track record in prison, so to speak. Lyle has a college degree. Eric started a hospice program. Lyle and him both work with prisoners who have experienced childhood traumas, whether similar to theirs or completely different. They've volunteered, they've started a garden, they've started a program to beautify, the prison, to not make it as dingy. There actually was an article about that specific thing. Lyle did a mural with some other inmates a while ago. So that's just a small chunk of what they've did and done and continue to do. Lyle graduated, I believe it's before the beginning of this year. Maybe I'm a little off with that. He graduated with a degree in sociology or maybe business, one of the two. But I know that both of them have done a podcast with their current attorney, Mark Garagos, and TMZ's Harvey Levine, saying they can want to get released and continue to work with childhood abuse survivors. And Eric, and like I said, they were stating that, and then Eric, and they also just want to focus on adjusting into their home life, and how that's going to be an adjustment and just back into today's society as a whole, because they grew up 80s, 90s, and it's very different now compared to back when they were teenagers, and they're in their late and mid 50s right now. So they do have goals that they want to pursue and manage when they get out. They also had the new piece of evidence come forward, which was found in a box of their family's things, when they were cleaning out after the crime. It was a letter that predated the crime itself, which was written by Mr. Eric right here, to his cousin Andrew, aka Andy Connell. And it just stated how he feared Jose and that the abuses that Jose was doing to him were still continuing. And Eric was well into his teenage years at this point when this letter was written. And before, when DA Gascon was in office, they were stating how that letter is vital and how the only reason it wasn't brought up in the first trial is because, again, couldn't find it within the mess of things they had. And so they were stating how it was, a vital piece of information because it just proves that they were being physically, mentally, and sexually abused by Jose and Katie Menendez. They were in fear for their lives. They definitely had to be hypervigilant and protect themselves. And that Eric was not mentally okay, as well as Lyle. But again, this Eric was from Eric to their cousin Andy. So now the Hochman over here in this little circle, he's saying that letter absolutely does not help them, and that letter just further does nothing to prove that they were victims of their parents, which I completely don't get. You can actually read the frickin' letter if you do a Google search, or probably Robert Rand has posted it. He's covered their trial since the 90s. I'm sure Anna Maria Baralt, their cousin, has posted it or talked about it in some of her TikToks at some point. I will tag both of them. So I'm just not seeing how this DA reads all of these files, this letter, and is like, no, not enough. That's not valid. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm hopeful that they'll get out. Because, again, times have changed from when we had their trial back then saying, oh, well, no man or no young man is gonna get, SA'd by their father. That just doesn't happen. No man is ever gonna get SA'd. They're men. They can protect themselves. They can leave. They're this, they're that. As to where now society in general has a more broader mindset when it comes to that. And it's like, okay, men are victims of DA, SA, DA, DV, my bad, not DA, jeez. DV, SA, this, and that. So there's more cases where men are the victims, whether it is DV, SA, etc. So again, I'm not seeing how this DA is so freaking close-minded, other than the fact that he is solely a red pill person, if you know what I mean. And so that to me is another reason why he's so insistent that they just don't deserve to get out. I remember in a documentary that Eric stated at one point he had accepted the fact that him and his brother were gonna just unalive behind bars. But now that all of this has recirculated, they kind of have hope, which I'm hoping they continue to have hope up until these new trial dates, which is March 20th and 21st next month. So fingers crossed that goes well, because in the end, even the DA has said, it's up to the judge. And from what I've read and heard, Judge Jessic, I believe his name is, seems to be very fair. And he also, I believe, has listened to the family members other than just Eric and Lyle. Which is another reason I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this DA? Because he too has listened to these family members. And it's not just family members on one side of the family, it's both that are advocating from both sides of their family. So you have Jose's side, which is their father, and Kitty's side, their mother. There's nieces, uncles, aunts, cousins, freaking not grandparents, like just a plethora of their relatives that have gone to press conference after press conference, hearing after hearing, meeting after meeting, and have blatantly, publicly, in some cases, stated that this is why they deserve to get out. And not only that, some of them are the same family members that testified back in the trials. So if Eric and Lyle's story isn't changing, right? Because they've had enough time to change it, to be like, hey, no, we just did it because, again, like the assumption everybody makes for money. So they've had enough time to change their story, okay? 36 years, or 35, give or take. Their family members have had enough time to spin their narrative and change their story. And be like, no, we just didn't want them to, whatever. So if nobody within this leftover family tree, including their Aunt Joan, who, God bless her, is 90 years old, just got out of the hospital with a medical condition, and she's advocating for her 50-year-old nephews coherently. Like, this lady does, she's coherently there enough to speak on their behalf as well. So if all of them are saying, like, forget Eric and Lyle saying it, like, focus on their family members saying it, like, what more do you need? Because it's not like anybody has changed their story. It has been consistent since the freaking 90s. Like, I'm just not comprehending why this DA is saying they don't deserve a new trial, but yet both sides of their family are advocating. And the only person that is against this, that even this DA has listened to, is their mother's brother, whose name I believe is Brian Thompson, is constantly contacting lawyers and courts and DAs being like, F my nephews, they did what they did, I hope they rot. So that's literally the only person that is in opposition in this whole aspect. Well, I guess you can count this DA as an op too. So, in conclusion, free the Menendez brothers, and at this point, I'm not listening to anything that Hochman says, and just wait for the trials. Yeah, wait for the trials and free the Menendez brothers. That's really, just rely on Judge Jessic and wait, guys. Just wait.